Hello YouTubers. So, whilst I had the blade apart, which I got recently, which was in another video, basically I bought a blade, it was knackered, so I had to take it apart and fix it. Thank you Colin, up at the blade repair station. So, did that, and I thought whilst it's apart, why don't we have a look to see what information's getting thrown out of there. So, there's the Blade Plus machine that went to businesses last year, and that basically was internet connected. So it was internet connected, kind of like the Perfect Draft Pro, which is out there now, and I've done quite a few videos on that. So I hooked up to the blade, and as you can see, we got the information that's coming out of there. So you should be able to see this on the screen at the moment. So basically, it tells you the keg temperature, the AMB temperature, that's ambient, the bowl temperature, so the actual cooler itself, the keg volume, so how much you've got left in the keg. So I've had a few out of this keg of alpha, the air pressure, and then that's it really. That's all you get out of this one. It doesn't keep a record of who's poured a shit pint, unlike the Perfect Draft Pro. So you can see when you turn it on, you get the machine will spit out the software version that's on there. So this was a repaired machine. It was a 2019 machine. It had been in for a refurbish. So it came out with the silver marks around the bowl. It's where they do the silver cutouts. Kind of like the Blade Plus again. So I don't know what software version would have been on there. And I don't know if that software version gets updated as part of that refurbishment process. But I guess it must do. Because in all fairness, it's absolutely brilliant on power usage. And the old blade I had back in 2020, that was good. But this seems so much better. And then we've got a database size. I'm guessing that's database size. I don't know what that's about, to be fair, if it's login errors or what, who knows. I've got to admit, it didn't seem to want to interact with me when I was trying to send data to it. So yeah, you can sort of see it. The blade itself is sold as doing beer at what, 2 degrees? And what it does, as you can sort of see with the temperatures, it just drops down to a 0 mark. So I don't know, as daft as it sounds, I don't know if this is looking for the keg and the bowl to both get to 0, or whether it's actually 2 and this is offset. So when it says 0, it might be 2 degrees, or it might actually be minus degrees. Because I've got to admit, if you look at the power usage of the blade, and if we spin that over there, look, you can sort of see here, it turns the cooler on for like about 4 or 5 minutes at a time. That uses 75-80 watts, and then it drops down to like hardly anything, sort of like 3 watts, and that's just whilst the board's running 2-3 watts. And then obviously when these temperatures get to 0, it kicks the cooler in again. And what you can see, so you can sort of gauge off that lot, it's about every 20-25 minutes at the minute, and this is quite a warm day. It's what, 20 degrees inside? And yeah, the blade handled the hottest day of the year absolutely no problem. Didn't even use much power. Brilliant. So let's have a look. So you can sort of see temperature temp, blah, 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 blah. And then it kicks in the chiller right about here. In fact, no, I tell a lie. It kicked it in there, look. Because you can see the bowl temperature suddenly goes from 0.1 Celsius, and then it starts chilling. So it's going down to -4. The keg starts to go below 0 when that's at -4. And the bowl chills all the way down to -10 before it turns off. So in that 4 or 5 minutes, that bowl that's holding your keg of blade beer gets down to -10 Celsius. So again, I don't know if that's an offset and it's actually a different value, but as far as it's concerned, it's -10. So it gets that for what, 4 or 5 minutes, not long at all. And you can see your beer temps coming down, and then as it's turned off the chiller, the beer temp's still coming down, so it kind of does this little dance basically. And then your keg starts to warm up again. So there you can see the keg got down, -4.1. So it got down to -4.1 degrees, which is nuts if you think about it. So that's only the actual bowl and the external side of the keg. So that's the plastic. So the beer in the bag's not getting quite as cold as that. But I've got to admit, I did pull a pint just after the chill cycle had finished. And you can sort of see how often? I think it kicks these out about every 10 seconds or so. I did get a video of it, but to be fair, it's really boring. Sort of like this, really. So, yeah, pulled a pint off, and it was below 1 Celsius, and that's when the keg was full. I did notice, I did another video the other day, if you've seen it, where I pulled a couple of pints off, measured the temperature of it, and they were only showing about 2.5. And I think that was just purely because it was getting towards the end of that keg. So, but either way, it's still really cool. Perfect draft used to be sat around 3, but they weren't always the most accurate sensors in any of these, to be fair. So what they thought they were doing and what they were doing in reality didn't always tie up. That's just because there's always a bit of wiggle room on the accuracy of the sensors. So that's nothing to worry about. But yeah, you can sort of see it puts a bit of information out. So this is probably what goes into the Blade Plus on the internet connected side of it. And then it can just shoot all this information up to the net, like the air pressure, so it knows if you've got a dodgy keg, because obviously the pressure won't be kept right, start leaking. The keg volume, that's how they do the... I think there was a notification where they could tell you when you needed to put a new keg into it or when you'd have to prepare one. And yeah, you can do all the clever stuff on that. When all this sort of data goes into the cloud, obviously that's where they can then start to say, we know how many beers a day you pour, so therefore you need to have X number of kegs per day, and if you've not got stock of those, you need to start ordering by this date. And it all gets really clever. But yeah, the pissheads, they'll just drink fucking loads, won't they, really? Pardon my French. So yeah, let's have a look. I don't think there's anything else really of interest, to be fair. You can sort of see the machine was reading the stuff off. You can sort of see the machine hooked up at that point. That's just where it's plugged straight into the board. So that actually drops off to a daughter board normally. In fact, you can see the little connector hanging there. And that drops off to a little daughter board that sits down here. And that exposes like your receive, your transmit, your ground. So you can always tie into that one. I've got to admit, I just did this as a test and put it all back together. Oh, there we go. That's a shame. Look, it's not done the video yet. It was just showing how often this information sort of comes up. You can sort of see it's actually every few seconds, isn't it? This is live connected to the machine, and you can see every time it gets a bit of information from the machine, you get a little bit of chirp on the interface board. That little red light just chirps on there. So yeah, it's simple, but obviously it worked quite well. You've got to be happy with that. And yeah, it's not really... Some people might want to hook into this. You can get like a little board that'll plug into that, and then you can forward that onto something like Home Assistant, so you can keep an eye on all the information on there just to see if you've got any issues coming, and make your own sort of internet connected machine, really. So I don't know if that is on all blades. I assume it is, because that motherboard was from 2018. I assume, again, we all know what Assume does, don't we? But I think they've probably all got the same daughter board in the bottom left hand corner, so you can't see it in the pictures, unfortunately. Oh, actually, you can see him hiding there, look. It's that little bit there, just hiding away, and that just basically connects into this connector, and it just gives you 3 pads at the bottom, so you can either solder onto those, drop some cables outside of the machine, do whatever you want, really. But yeah, there you go. So that's the information that comes out of the blade. That's the debug info. Not a lot there, to be fair. It just does its job, and it does it really well. I've got to admit, it cools, it's energy efficient, it keeps the beer cold. What more do you want, really? It's great. So anyway, have a good day. I'll try and stop this video now. I can't remember how to stop it, to be fair. That's never very good, is it? There's got to be a button somewhere. I've forgotten. Yeah, I really don't know. I've lost it. That's not very good. Anyway, have a good night, and I'll see you all later. Unless I can't find this button.